100%. I mean, Smith nearly triple the average amount of kills that most of the people are picking up. Knight is above it, despite the fact that it feels like we haven't seen the full go-go Knight that we were expecting thus far. Maybe a little bit of nerves coming into this, maybe just a little bit of warming up. And then Aydan also putting up considerable figures. We're going to see more of both of those players throughout this one.
Indeed the case, and just to keep bringing it up, the team that you don't see on that overall rankings at the moment, Team Falcons. Shifty still has 2 games to play, and in this is Biffle. So if you're really trying to track down the quote-unquote tournament favorites, keep your eye on the kill feed for those 2 names as we're dealing with our early drop situations. And a lot of action actually here towards the backside of the residential district.
Yeah, living quarters here seeing a fair lion's share of gunfights. Castillo has managed to get a down, but not a kill. And, well, he's just going to try and rotate on off, give himself a bit of high ground gas, potentially forcing him into that spot. But looks like whoever he did down below has managed to pick themselves back on up and has potential company from a 4. If a player that spawns in just above him might land on top of him. So lots of things to consider right now. It looks like it might have been Biffle that Castillo brought down.
I think so, because it not is just Biffle in this area. You also saw that Knight had dropped on the other side of living quarters as well. So, you know, again, maybe an opportunity where they talk to us, but like, hey, you drop on one side, I drop on the other, and we just rotate around the island in counterclockwise form. So that could be a part of the strategy to try to get Falcons back in the running here.
Yes. Now, I know there's going to be people asking about all of that and like, how far can you go with the strategy? There is, you know, you can't collude. You can't sit there and be like, okay, you do this, you do that. If you and me are on the same team, brother, I'm going over here, you go over there. If we see each other, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly the case. See if the gloves get thrown or not. As the kill feed gets super active at the moment. Patsuka, we got to remember, had a great start when he was playing over, especially through the showers in our last game. Found a lot of kills, just could not quite crack into that top 5. So now it's just about, again, can you find those kills, but all of a sudden crack into that top 5, get yourself that big multiplier.
Well, I think Vitality start off slow. I spoke about them at the top of the show. They are my prediction for the event. I think that the great thing for them currently is that Engson got off to a really slow start. If anyone wants to start Slayer on this lineup, it is that guy. He impresses so much, especially in like 1v3, 1v2 situations. He seems to come out on top in a ridiculous amount of them. So when odds are stacked against him, when he goes back against the wall, he goes big. Can he put that on here through the rest of this and get his side a top seed for the remainder of this tournament?
And so far, top 5, because Stevo did great. He had an unbelievably good first 4 games. He finds himself, I think, 20 total kills. So again, he meets the metric in terms of how do you crack into not just the top 10, but possibly being a top overall seed as we look towards the trio group stage to continue forward after tonight. So lots of things to kind of keep our eye on here. Knight did get knocked down, so I know the Falcons fans inside the venue are probably not going to be very happy about that, but still plenty of time to come through. And interestingly enough, how about it? We swap over to London, who does find one of our contenders for top overall leaders, as all of a sudden Smith has to find his way back into the game.
Yeah, that'll feel good for Lennon. A big play to pick up your first kill on through this. Lennon in particular, it feels like one of those kind of players who vibes well once his confidence gets flowing, once he gets going. He's one of those players that you know, you just want to see on that heater, because once he gets going, hits a different level. And we're just going to get a nice overview there of Method 6. Interesting conversation around him. He's an ex-multiplayer player, then came over to play Warzone. He was the part of the top Spanish trio for a long time. Then he actually got a job offer to coach the Miami Heretics in the CDL. Goes over and works with them for a while, but gets an invite to the ESPORTS World Cup, and of course reunites with his favorite Spanish duo.
Yeah, it's just, there's something about the Spanish community where they bond together in a lot of ways, because that Miami Heretics team, there was a lot of question on what they were going to do. They picked up a 5-man roster for the CDL, and they trusted Method 6 to try to put him together. But he's been able to kind of balance, juggle a little bit between both spaces, and still putting together a pretty decent performance here, all things told. And again, I've asked you before, if you were surprised that Breadman was sitting on top of a tower with a sniper rifle, I think that you hadn't been watching Warzone. So he finds himself up top again, and we track back over to Spit, who has 2 kills off of his recent respawn, just going to try to get the cash back up and get himself back into fighting form.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the Breadman conversation, by the way, although, yes, it is unsurprising, I wonder if part of that comes into strategy, thinking long picture, big picture in this tournament. You know, okay, how do I feel around the water tower? There's a couple of things that I want to adjust throughout this. And when we start talking group stages and we start talking about those trios, is he going to feel that bit more comfortable than some of the people who are currently playing as the solo, as picking up the points for their seeding?
And for Cloud9 in particular, speaking on Breadman's squad, Foreign Jace is the player that was in Group A. He's done. He found 19 total kills. So again, he's right around the good metric. He's right in the conversation. So now it's just down to the rest of the team, which includes not just Bread, but also Joe. Those are the 2 that we're keeping our eye on. And Joe did not have a great start here overall. Just 5 total kills and an average placement of 34th. So he's having a little bit of a tough time here at the solos.
Yeah, the guy who calls himself the king of schmovement. We've seen him do many, many wonderful things over the years, but we got to see a little bit better. And, well, Jackal does better. Hits the sniper, and actually sniper on sniper action, and manages to get the crack onto Bread, but it's going to back him on off. And if he's aware that's Bread, he should be aware he could well get counter-sniped. Breadman rarely backs down from one of these kind of fights. Jackal's going to look to the skies. Bralik coming back in, who he just picked off. Can he land the shot? There's almost like kid in a candy shop situation there. It's just too many things to try and pick out.
Yeah, which do you focus on? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of the players in the parachute? Knight able to confirm himself another kill as we jump on board with Zeppa, who finds the other Falcons teammate in Biffle. And that's enough for Biffle to come out. I mean, talk about just a disappointment. I mean, it's hard to say. Again, it's solos. We don't want to necessarily change the narrative of the tournament, but I think the expectation was that not only are these guys collectively nasty, individually they're disgusting. So we're not quite getting that full yet.
No, you're right. Again, in the long-term things, it could just matter little, but it is concerning at the minute. You know, you look at Hisoka, for example. That is a man who is constantly lighting up kill feeds, constantly doing ridiculous things on the map, and he's currently averaging 3.25 kills per game, which is way below the average and definitely not their standard. And a man who we wanted to see a bit more of there on our screens for a moment, that was Knight, and it's whether or not he can turn into the player that Aydan and Z-Smith pick up, right? He's known as a Resurgence player, Resurgence content creator. Can he start to deliver through this map?
Yeah, but we are in that top 30, so the first multiplier is currently in play as more squad wipes are continuing to come through here through this second circle. So plenty of time on it. So positioning not a major concern yet, but I say that with some hesitation because Zix does find himself kind of gatekeeping the edge on this switchback path as we head back over in towards the headquarters position. Hasn't really gotten a tally on the players that are kind of on the fringe, though. So this is just about him trying to get into a better spot eventually when Circle 3 forces him to likely have to move deeper into the circle.
Yeah, just trying to get a quick look at that circle. Obviously, we don't have full map view at this point, but it looks like it will be center of map, so potentially around your prison. So a lot of squads then, a lot of these individuals, sorry, are going to start to consider whether or not to break in through bottom prison, trying to get up towards top prison, take control of these areas as players rotate up their hills or around the surrounding pathways, picking up some free kills. But obviously, going to be hotly contested. And speaking of which, Cams here suspects company nearby. Castillo will be directly underneath. And we do actually get that full map view. And it does look like actually the zone could pull slightly off towards industry there, or maybe even somewhere in between.
It's always really an interesting conversation when you're trying to rotate early for a center circle because, let's be honest, like as much as center circle often comes with the pedigree of you're winning, with all the elevation that comes out, it's like, well, you could be center circle, but if you find yourself on the low ground and it moves to the opposite side, you're kind of screwed. So this is all about, I think, at this point, especially with it still being a chance to respawn, what can you find on the fringe? Not a lot of players defaulting for the middle unless you're trying to win things like the entire POI of industry.
You can see as well here, Rodrigo just trying to play on the edge of the map and around Chem. Climb the ladder here. He will have plenty of company inside, but it's another area, as you've just said there, with the verticality, so many players that can contest you from various regions. To try and lock it all down is difficult. Jackal here, by the way, on 210, seems to be having a hell of a time atop prison. And Breadman is just lurking over the other side, potentially more sniper on sniper action here. Shift, lightens it up, pulls the trigger, does get the crack, but again, Breadman will check away. Thermite comes on out over from Smith, doesn't connect though, so Smith backs on off.
Yeah, Smith's trying to get involved. He's just like, I see you guys. I'm not going to let you have this one-on-one battle forever, which it feels like it's been going on for forever. As we swap over to Rodrigo. Again, not bad at all there for him on 5 at the moment. Still playing on the outside of the circle as we're about to see it start to close on in. And I think the question here for Breadman is how much more does he find from this position and how long does he want to stay here? This feels like this is his strategy every time he drops into the map is get me on the water tower on the other side of prison and let me just get to work on the scope.
100%. And oh, that was gorgeous. Finds the back of Clapper's skull. And Clapper will have an opportunity to come back on in, but Breadman will take a chunk of loot. And actually wants to play courtyard here, not going back up towards his water tower, potentially just considering a reposition. Lines up a couple more shots up towards top, but he's got to be careful and intense. We've just spoken about how important prison could be here. From that rooftop, you are very much so exposed down there.
Respawn will close, so now every kill will be pretty final, and how about it? Just as soon as it happens, AJ able to take down Trevs and even has the Kar 98 out and does see a player at range. Can't quite connect, and this is just about, yeah, let me see what Lukai can grab. Reset, no need to get too greedy. Still plenty of circle to play with.
Lukanas just trying to quietly make his way out somewhere. However, what I will say, he was on 1 kill. Doesn't matter what you pick up in terms of placement if you find 1 kill. It's one of those sayings that kind of exists around Warzone. Placements are something, kills are everything.
Yeah.
So he's got to pick that pace up if he's actually going to make an impact in this one. And just A lovely view here over prison, and there's about 6 or 7 players just in camera shot right there.
Yeah, I think just kind of revisiting that conversation, you know, the difference between 1.7 and 2 times multiplier really doesn't feel terribly different, especially considering that this is just for seeding. So I think at the end of the day, especially as we start to get close to our next multiplier boost at the top 15, once you get in there, it's just like, okay, if I can find a kill, great. Otherwise, 1.7 will do more than enough. We don't have to win these lobbies to get good points.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely spot on. Jackal here finally spotting a bit of bother and actually finds Cams, brings the Spaniard down, moves himself up to 11. And then sees Breadman yet again. And these two have been trading blows for a while now. Mostly Jackal onto Breadman, and he'll be frustrated if he doesn't finish that off anytime soon because the circle's actually going to push him towards it. Squeezes people in. Knight will pick up AJ and then starts to spot Elo, and oh, he's just not done enough. It's 1 bullet per player. Surely the problem is Elo will be able to use the gas to push Knight forward, and actually Knight disengages, finds himself a different route, and then Tommy actually finds Elo elsewhere, but I think the actual credit might go to Knight.
Hard to say. It was a bang-bang play without question. But regardless of it, tight moments, as Knight does, will finish off Rodrigo, who had been downed earlier. So it's a cross, and yep, both players will be wiped off the table. Breadman able to finish off Knight, who was down. So pretty much a 1-for-1 martyrdom trade right there between the two of those. The kill fit as we jump back over to Patsuka, who's putting together another nice mid-game, but cannot quite finish off Spit, who's on a bit of a slower game here. 4 kills, but this is where you expect him to start to get active.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, Circle is going to pull actually downhill. So a lot of players now going to rotate. You're going to see Smith here with potentially a lot of company. Jackal as well is stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Players above, if he heads downhill, there's likely going to be players lying in wait. And he's just trying to look on over. Zix just above him. Limax is already down in position, and Lucanas still hiding in the bottom of camp.
This isn't a comfortable position for Jackal, but he does have the ability to try to play for the circle rotation, but doesn't quite get into the right spot to deal with Zix. So that's now a couple eliminations properly owned up in. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Breadman continuing to play with elevation, this time by way of the chopper, as he's just going to float above this and see Smith right below, starting to get to work, like we mentioned, already on 5 kills with a couple more nearby.
And 1 more kill gets you to that 1.7 times multiplier, that all-important metric that we've been talking about for these individuals. Smith just looking to take this fight and will pick up Lucanas. And again, we spoke about it. Can't be many kills for Lucanas. He gets himself to this point, doesn't even get the 1.7. Smith snaps yet again, trying to chase after this. Will actually pick up Limax as well, but then takes bullets. And it's actually going to be Tommy who finds him. 3 remaining.
And now it's just down to what does Breadman do? He's still floating around the helicopter up above. And if you're looking at this from Tommy or Stukic's position, who are the last 2 left on the ground, when does he drop on in? Tommy doesn't seem to care. He is the innovator of Chopper strategy. So he knows what this is going to look like. Chopper starts to come through. Breadman trying to get himself back in, but he has been tagged and has to try to find a route through the gas. So far, so good. And Breadman's going to get the down, also has the read over towards Tommy. Knife finishes the kill. Tommy off the reset, up and over. Tommy able to win the 1v1. Breadman gave himself a heck of a look. But end all be all, Tommy gets the read, and again, he's the innovator of helicopter strats. He knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I knew exactly how to counterplay that. I honestly thought we had ourselves a highlight reel moment out of Bread. I'm not going to lie. He comes in off that chopper. I think he actually positions himself beautifully. Flies in through the back side of the gas there, away from the ongoing gunfight. The idea is to land, pick up all the